Phil, that was Jorge Ferrer in Barcelona, Spain. And again, for those listening in, if you heard a little bit of an echo, it's because he had to find a room. We said it was a monastery room. It was not, where he was speaking to us from. Um, Phil, tell us, he's at the California Institute of Integral Studies. Are you familiar with that institute?
Yeah, yeah.
And tell us
I
about it.
I wrote about it in American Veda. Well, it's an interesting place because it came about. Um, well, it's an intricate history that people can read about in my book because Alan Watts, the great Alan Watts, was associated with it at the beginning, and it started as a small sort of institute by a guy named Haridas Chaudhuri, who was a disciple of Sri Aurobindo and came here to work uh, with cultural integration fellowship. People were doing this sort of East-West philosophy back in the 50s and 60s, and then he started another institute. I forget what the original name was, and it evolved over time into the California Institute of Integral Studies, and it's expanded and grown into degree granting accredited institution, and it's one of a few that started out to specialize in this integration of East and West, and especially in the field of psychology. Jorge gave us a bit of an overview of transpersonal psychology, and it evolved out of that. And some of the other attempts have gone by the wayside, but CIIS is still flourishing very well, and they have a very popular program training spiritually oriented counselors and psychotherapists and scholars. And there are others like it. Somehow this all seems to center in the Bay Area.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
what he said in the beginning was very interesting to me based upon a number of the other interviews we've done. He obviously had experiences in his life. He said mostly when he was younger that couldn't be easily defined or properly defined by modern psychology. Kimberly Braun was just on, same thing. Rick Archer, a friend of ours, has a show, Boot at the Gas Pump. He interviews a lot of folks that have had uh, these types of experiences, awakenings, whatever you want to call them. And I think for years people went to psychologists and psychiatrists, and they were told that there was something wrong with them. So
Yeah.
this is why my understanding is why transpersonal psychology has developed. But I think for a lot of people, it's still not available. It's not as out there where people aren't as familiar with it. And I think we encounter a lot of people that have these types of experiences at one point in their life or another, or continuously, and they don't know what to make of them. And so I think the work he's doing is very important. It's very good, and yeah, I think psychology is and should, and hopefully will evolve to incorporate a broader range of human experience.
Well, it is. It's an evolving thing. Back in the 60s, when people like Abraham Maslow and Stanislav Grof and other psychologists became aware themselves of, the spiritual dimension of life, and that there was higher states of consciousness than we ordinarily experience, and that psychology was studying, and a big piece of this was psychology was very oriented around pathology.
Mm-hmm.
I remember taking abnormal psychology classes. No one talked about how to be happy or how to
Right,
be
exactly.
fulfilled or how to, have ecstatic states as opposed to neurotic states or just being well adjusted. What we called well adjusted was the sort of goal of psychology, which was seen very boring to those of us who, were young in the 60s. And all that exploration of there has to be more. Some of the people doing that exploration were psychologists, and they discovered especially from the Eastern traditions, that there was a lot
Right,
more,
right.
and that evolved, and so that and transpersonal psychology has never become, a discipline the way people thought it might, as a sort of popular and recognized household name. And part of the reason for that is the recognition of uh, higher or more fulfilled states of being in psychology,
Hmm.
and the inclusion in psychology of an aspect of life we call spiritual, that became more mainstream. So the need for a separate discipline was less, I suppose.
Right.
At least that's how it's
Well, I went
feeling
to
to me.
graduate school in the 70s in clinical psychology. And right at that time, I started TM. I started meditating. I went on these longer meditation courses and stuff. And I thought, wait a second. And the program I was in was very psychoanalytical. And there was just, then that's led me to move on from graduate school because there was no professor or anyone I could find that could deal with some of the stuff that I wanted to deal with and discuss and think about. Even though I think, look, I think Freud brought a lot to the table. The whole thing of the conceptually thinking of an unconscious, that there's more to the mind. That was all great, but it was really infantile in some ways compared to some of the writings and teachings that were coming out of the East. And again, a lot of this is discussed in your book, American Beta, about East and West, East influence on the West. But so I think that it's great what Jorge and others are doing, and I think it will continue to evolve. So I wonder if you went into a psychoanalytically trained, therapist, psychiatrist, and you told him you had an out of body experience, he'd go right to he'd get out the prescription pad, and he'd be writing you all kinds of prescriptions to get you back in your body, or whatever. So I think there are legitimate experiences that people have, and maybe people have them more now that modern psychology will be able to deal with.
Well, that seems to be the case. That there's more awareness that these states are not necessarily pathological. I don't know how much the that has advanced, but I think one of the reasons transpersonal psychology developed in the first place was that recognition. I remember people, going having these breakthrough experiences and being told they're crazy or being
Right,
put on meds.
right,
So, but it's less likely to happen now than it was in the past, I
right,
suppose.
right. He also he also mentioned the San Pedro cactus, and we've had other people come on and speak about ayahuasca and research on psilocybin. And I mean, these are serious people doing serious research, not doing things recreationally. And I do think that we're coming to a time again when some of these psychotropic drugs or psychedelics or whatever will be used in clinical settings to help people with various issues they're having, or just simply healthy people to expand their vision or whatever. I think I would want to say that I think they have to be very careful that at this stage, it's not for experimentation. It can be dangerous, like taking any substance, but there's some serious research going on. And if you look at Anthony Bosis, if you look at some of the other people we've interviewed, they discuss the research.
Yeah, and it's all very interesting, and we'll see where it leads. One hopes that all that kind of research will be done responsibly, and it won't leak out of the laboratory in irresponsible ways as it did in the past.
Right, right. So, Phil, we have a lot of stuff coming up. We have some Sikh gentlemen coming on the show, or we've already interviewed them. We'll be posting up. We had and many others of
Yep.
all flavors. And if in our listening audience out there, you have any suggestions for us, or any points of praise or criticisms, or whatever you want to tell us, please go to spiritmatterstalk.com and let us know what you're thinking. And Phil and I are both always available for speaking engagements. If anybody has any ideas or any needs, we can help you out there as well.
All righty.
Till next time,
And
and I
we should
and this
remind
is
people
yeah.
to
Go ahead.
look to look more deeply into Jorge's work on participatory spirituality. It's very interesting.
Right. And
They could find information online.
this is July 2017 that this recording is being done, and we all are looking forward to Phil's biography of Paramahansa Yogananda that will be coming out in the near future.
April.
April. All right. Over and out. Next time, Phil.
Okay.